Good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Smyers, and this is February of 2025. We got a beautiful snowy morning here in the Shenandoah Valley, and that's exactly what I want to talk about today. I live in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley, and I'll show you a map in just a minute here. But if you do a little history reading and the geography knowledge, you'll find out that the beautiful Shenandoah Valley has a long history of just beautiful people living here, and agriculture, timbers, rivers, water, streams. It's a beautiful, beautiful state. So let me just give you a little bit of orientation here. This map is a 3D map of the upper Shenandoah Valley, which is, this is Waynesboro, this is Stanton, this is Charlottesville. Now, there's another part of the valley off this map down toward the south. The Shenandoah River itself runs up in this area, and there's a river that runs from here through this valley toward the north called the South River. It conjuncts with the Shenandoah River and goes up through here, and you can see the terrain here. The reason that people came here and settled is because of some of the reasons that I'm going to be listing here in a minute. And as you can see, there's a variety of terrain here, and you have the shelter of the beautiful valleys, but without too much difficulty you can quickly get into some rugged hills where there's lots of national forests and so on, and streams and all that. So it's a beautiful, gorgeous area. Now, as far as homesteading, I live in this area because it has so many opportunities, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in just a second here. Excuse me. One thing is the people here. The people in the Shenandoah Valley, and generally in Virginia and many places in the South, they're just so hospitable, because in the old days, people had to live really before the technology. You had to know your neighbors, you had to cooperate with them. There were things that would happen, snowstorms and timber things and rivers and flooding and things. So over the centuries, really it's been a few hundred years here in Virginia, that there is just a lot of innate cooperation and focus on community and farm stands and sharing resources to some degree and so on. So the people, and they tend, even to this day, there's a lot of community spirit. You go to the farm markets or the flea markets, and everybody's like having a good time and participating and getting to know each other and so on. So the next thing is the economy. We have a fantastic economy here. It's not robust like a Silicon Valley in that sense, and that's good because it's stable. And the reason it's stable is depending on multiple things. We have here tourism, recreation. We have transportation hub. We got some big highways here. We got schools. We got colleges. We got medical institutions. We have a lot of agriculture. We got timber harvesting. Just the real estate market, commercial, agricultural, and just residential is very, very hot in many parts of Virginia. You have to bid over the amount of a listing if you want to be sure to get the house that you love. So that's another thing. Now, one more thing is really important. I talk about it in one of my other videos, is the zoning. If you want to do homesteading and have some freedom on your land, and the use of, you can have chickens, you can have pigs, you can have dogs, you can have whatever you want there, pretty much. You can park a camper there. You can have a little farm stand if you want. The zoning is really, really important, and you'll find that in many of the housings, you can find a really expensive house in some of these suburbs, and it might even have an acre or two, but just read the fine print, because they'll say, well, no chickens, this and that and the other thing, and they have homeowner associations that you have to pay into and abide by their laws and so on. So there's a lot of freedom in having the right zoning, and it just so happens because Virginia is an agricultural state, like many of them, and in particular, there's a lot of support by the regulations and the laws to support agricultural use and free use of your land, because everybody, all the community people, they're the ones that run for government in the local area, and their friends or family or have farms and things going on. So the tax laws also favor it. There's less taxes. There's various kinds of easements and deductions that you can get, like if you want to put your property in a large forest area in conservation easement, there's some tax benefits and so on. So again, the zoning and what you can do with your land legally, if it's liberal enough, you can basically do what you want. In fact, one of the beautiful things here that you'll find frequently, as a realtor, I see this quite frequently, you'll find more than one residence on a parcel of land. Like where I live, it's not even quite 4 acres, but there's 2 residences here. And there's a lot of situations like that where over the years a family owned a piece of property, maybe it was 2 or 3, 4, 5 acres, and eventually one of the family members or someone to say, well, hey, let's put a little house on over there on the property, and Joe and my daughter can go live there or something like that. So you'll find that these things are grandfathered in, and sometimes if you're really lucky, you can find one of those places like the one I have here, and you could just keep it for a long time, and eventually you can have your family there or whatever, and you can rent it out for some extra money. Now, another one, water. We got lots of water here in Virginia. In fact, sometimes we have more than enough, more than we need. There is an old tradition of agriculture here. You have some beautiful valleys, as you saw in the demonstration here in the map, that there's a lot of ravines in Virginia, and it triggers the release of moisture from both sides, coming from the west or coming from the east. We have the Blue Ridge Hills. We have into the western part of the state and into West Virginia, you have a rise of mountains that go up into the 4,000s in some areas. So you have a variety of terrain, but you have a nice valley so you catch all that water, it runs down the valley, and you have some beautiful rivers, as I showed you. The James River is a big river, you got the Shenandoah River, and there's fish in there, they stock the streams, and wells are very, very common in Virginia, and some of the really clean water comes right out of the ground. No fluoride, no chlorine, nothing, just clean water. You can put your own filter system on it if you want and check for bacteria, but again, the water really, really important. And that goes along with the growing season. We have a long growing season here. It starts really, by the end of March, I'm mowing my yard, and it's green and things are popping. So you can get a really jump start on any kind of gardening, and in some kind of crops, you can have 2 crops. You can start one in April, say radishes or things like that, garden kind of vegetables, and then you can have another crop of those kind of things starting in July or something. So it's really quite an opportunity, because in some areas of the country there might be beautiful land, but like in upstate New York where I used to live, yeah, it's pretty rugged and it gets cold pretty quickly, and it gets the longer winters and more snow and all that. So again, and that relates to the climate. The climate here is very modest. We have a beautiful snow. We just got about 8 inches and a little icing on top, and it just looks so beautiful. Everything's white and so quiet. But I'll be glad like the end of March when I mow my yard again, because it all looks green and everything. So the snow comes here and it looks beautiful, but it doesn't just aggravate you for 6 months or 7 months like in Minnesota. So again, I joke about it, but the climate adds to your sense of well-being, your peace of mind. You get out in the sun earlier in the springtime, and you have the fall here goes very gently. It doesn't just shock you and end of all the leaves come off and everything. It's just a very gentle descent into the winter time. And if maybe in December you might get a little bit of snow or everything, but it just it's a very different thing. So I love it here. Now, one of the laws, I mentioned that before, the zoning laws and the regulations and so on regarding land use is very, very flexible here, because there's a lot of people doing agriculture, cows, just about everything, alpacas, chickens, big chickens, large-scale chicken farms, small-scale chicken farms, and everything in between. So people have a lot of horses around here too. So the laws support it. Again, the transportation is really important. If you want to get to your job or something like that, and you have to deal with one traffic jam on one particular road every single day, it's just a nightmare. Year after year, I've known people who did that. They had some job, but they're forced to go on this horrible road to get there every single day. But in Virginia, there's a lot of really great roads, and many times, for example, the highways, if the highways gets clogged, there's a parallel road like Route 11 that goes along 81. If 81 is clogged for some reason, an accident for a few exits, you just jump off on 11 and go parallel, or you can go on the other side of 81, and you can bypass a lot of stuff because there's a lot of really beautiful country roads that you can drive the same destination. Instead of taking the highway, you just drive some beautiful scenic road, and everywhere you turn, like, there's another beautiful scene, another beautiful scene. You have the variety of terrain. It's not boring like Iowa or Nebraska. It's not just flat as far as you can see. There's rolling terrain and beautiful scenes. You go around the valleys, and you have Blue Ridge Parkway. Now, again, that brings up recreation. There's so much recreation. You got hunting, you got fishing, you got just hiking and camping, and you can set up your property for a hip camp like I do and have some visitors come and stay there in tents and so on. You can do all kinds of stuff like that here, and it's so nice to just live in a peaceful area. You don't have to go anywhere for your vacation. You already live in a place where other people come to vacation. See, so it's just a really pleasant way of living. And the geography, again, transportation related to that, there's a lot of towns around here. For example, where I live, I have Charlottesville, I have Lynchburg, I have Lexington, I have Stanton, I got Waynesboro. I can go each way around here, and I can get to some decent town where I can get all the things I need. And then that applies to employment. Like, let's say you live in the countryside, and maybe one of the partners goes one direction for a job, another one can go the other direction. They don't have to depend on one town for their employment. You can live strategically in a position where you can get to 1.5 hours, you get to another 1.5 hours, you get another 1 in 40 minutes, and you have a lot of variety and a lot of options in terms of where you get your employment. And again, regarding zoning, you can work from home. Many people do. We have a lot of internet here. We have good open reception for the cell phones. Some areas way in the mountains where you may not even want to be. It's kind of sketchy out there, but Virginia has installed wireless and fiber optics in many, many rural areas, and I've been on some gravel roads like that. Oh my, who lives up here? But man, there's still electric people going up the road somehow, and way back in the hills with some gravel road. So you can have access to the infrastructure, and in many cases, you can be very, very self-sufficient. Again, the solar, the longer season, the more sunshine, the better exposure on some of these farms. You have wide open sun exposure. You can have a solar thing to support yourself and so on. And I think I've covered pretty much. There's a lot of different reasons here. I love the Shenandoah Valley, and I really love where I live, Stewart's Draft. I made a video about it. Just a lot of charming place around here. So please explore. We really need people. We don't want to lose those farms, and we don't want those old, beautiful houses that decay. We need some people to come in here, frankly, and get some of these beautiful old estates before they decay and start bringing them back to life, because there are so many homesteads in Virginia. It's unbelievable. There's just, for a long, long time, people worked from home, had a little something going on there. Maybe now they still have their goats and chickens and horses, but maybe they have a job as well. So the property was paid for a long time ago, and it becomes a family heirloom. Basically, you pass down land in a homestead to your family. My goodness, I mean, your children can walk into something already set up for them. It saves them a tremendous amount of cost and frustration trying to build the whole thing all themselves. So, again, I think I've done enough for about the Shenandoah Valley. My name is Paul Smyers. I work currently for Alliance Team Realty in the beautiful Bedford area near Smith Mountain Lake, and lovely family company. And just find me on the internet, and I'm mainly a buyer agent. We talk about that. I get a lot of people from out of town moving to this beautiful area, and that's what this video is about. So if you're thinking about homesteading, and if you just really want a beautiful place, it's just like a little piece of heaven over here, just take a look at this area, the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. So thanks again for listening. I hope to see you in some of my other videos.